later this afternoon and tonight for widespread destructive winds, hail, and possibly some tornadoes. This includes parts of a half dozen states. List them all: Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, big cities like Knoxville, Tennessee, Richmond, Virginia, Baltimore, even our nation's capital are going to be at risk. We have winds that could be exceeding 80 miles an hour today. This is the highest severe threat for D.C. in 10 years. The last time we were under a level 4 out of 5 threat was back in June of 2013. Now, back in 2019, we had a significant wind threat. But when we look at the all-encompassing threats that we have today, to see that pink shade that we have from parts of Western Virginia all the way right up into our nation's capital to include portions of Maryland, this is a concerning trend. I mean, over the weekend, it was quite active through the Midwest, and all of this working together. A town, for example, of Kincaid, Illinois. A multi-vortex tornado formed yesterday near that city. It was over mostly rural areas, but we've had nearly 500 severe reports from Friday into Sunday, 14 reports of just tornadoes. And we still have damage surveys that are to be done. This was that video out of Kincaid, Illinois. It was a significant storm to watch. Prior to this one on Saturday in the town of Bering, Missouri, we had an EF2 tornado move through. So the atmosphere that we're dealing with, at least as we gear up for today's threat, is significant. And it has the threat of us dealing with tornadoes. I know the highlight is the wind. The wind's going to be a big deal, but the tornadoes, we can't sleep on that either.
That's right. You know, anytime the Storm Prediction Center calls a system complicated, it's a complicated, active, severe weather system that we're watching, you need to be mindful of that. You need to keep an eye on the radar, keep an eye to Fox Weather, and have that safety plan in place. Things are going to start unfolding as we head into the afternoon hours. A lot of folks are going to be heading home from work. It's that evening commute that's going to be impacted the most and taking us into the evening hours in general. We look at where things are right now. We do have some storms starting to pop up across parts of western Pennsylvania, Punxsutawney over towards Pittsburgh. That's where we're getting in on some of those thunderstorms. But Stephen, as we head through this afternoon, this particular area is that warm sector. We are right between two boundaries, two fronts, where we could start to really see the instability put in place and these storms really start to fire up heading through the afternoon. And
Michael, I think that this is significant to note. I don't know, Seth, if we could go back and show that radar. We're seeing a mid-level circulation this morning on radar. This was something, too, over the weekend. There is an impressive signature of one of these, what we would call an MCV, a mesoscale convective vortex. But to see that right over Cleveland right now, yes, this plays into the severe weather threat, but what we have this morning, just those warm, unstable dew points and just air mass pushing on it.
You know, it's interesting to note, too, that if you were up and out the door early in New York City, you may have woken up to rain. What we're anticipating is there's almost this, it's a little break in between where we'll see this first round of rain eventually move off the eastern seaboard. And then notice there's a big kind of hole punch area where there's a lot of area and a lot of space where there's not any rain. That's going to allow for the sun to really warm things up, penetrate down to the ground, warm the ground up. You're going to get significant daytime heating. It's the heat. That's going to lead to the rising air. That, of course, leads to explosive showers and thunderstorms to develop later on this afternoon. 4, 5, and 6 p.m. could get really interesting. Storm Prediction Center saying, quote, a severe weather outbreak is possible along the eastern seaboard today.
And those are words that aren't minced when we discuss an outbreak. And it might seem as if when we look at these setups, we almost use the same textbook to indicate what we're going to be dealing with. But uniquely enough today, Kiana, is that upper level support. I mean, we've got a screaming jet that's going to be supportive of what we might see in D.C. and Baltimore. And look at the time, too. It's right at rush hour.
It is right at rush hour. A lot of folks are going to likely be caught off guard. So we do want to give you that heads up now. But as you mentioned, Stephen, we will have all of those ingredients in place. We do have those upper level winds that are just flowing off towards parts of the Northeast. And that's what's going to help when it comes to the instability in the atmosphere. Right now, we do have some more stronger, more moderate winds pushing through parts of the DMV over towards the Delmarva region. These are going to be areas that we need to watch out for later into the afternoon. We're going to watch for even the chance of some wind shear that can add to that threat of maybe seeing some tornadoes too. So it is going to be a severe weather outbreak. We'll likely see winds as high as around 75, 80 miles per hour once again. D.C. is no stranger to that. We saw that just a week ago, late July, that really came through and made for some destructive destructive
winds.
Yeah, after the fact. And they are right in the middle of this likely risk that we do have that tornado risk in place again.
And we also want to briefly hit on the flooding potential too, because the storms that are moving through, we woke up to some rain in New York City, as Michael mentioned. Now it is a game of feast or famine in the Northeast and New England. I mean, the state of Vermont, we don't need any more rain. Right. Even through the Hudson Valley, we've got Albany, which is at a surplus of more than 5 inches. But say a place like Baltimore and Philly could use it.
We need the rain. Don't get me wrong. We just don't need it all at once. And unfortunately, with this system, it's, as we just showed you before, it's an area of low pressure, basically situated currently in the Midwest. It is slowly bringing along with it a trailing cold front, and it is going to take its sweet time moving through the Midwest, eventually through the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. That is going to increase our flood threat because of how slowly this thing is moving. So everywhere shaded in that green coloring from upstate New York through the Finger Lakes and then down into the Mid-Atlantic, there's that chance and that risk for some flash flooding possible. We saw that just north and west of Philadelphia over the past couple of weeks. Again, Philadelphia itself, we need the rain, but just north and west of it, we saw that flooding. We could certainly see that again because soil is saturated in some spots.
I think the key time for that even flooding potential is unfortunately going to be right when the severe weather moves in, because that's when the rain is the heaviest. And also tomorrow, we're not out of the woods completely. Through parts of New England, we're going to continue with that threat.
I'm Amy Freeze. Welcome to Fox Weather's YouTube page. We have more great videos on the way, so make sure to subscribe to stay updated on all things weather.